Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
All right, welcome cohesive leaders, Ben-Jamin and Dr. Troy in the house, and today we are joined with David Petrash. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I just learned that you guys are in Charleston, South Carolina, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Where are you at?
Well, I'm in Tucson, Arizona, but spent a lot of time in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where Navy nuclear power training is right now. And my first sub I was on was home ported out of Kings Bay, Georgia, but the base wasn't completely finished. So all of us were housed in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for your service too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work with nukes in town. So it's the remnants of what was a huge Navy base.
Yes.
And now that's all we have is the Navy nuclear station. So,
yep.
So David, one of the things we like to do when we get started is to have you tell us a little something about you that is not on your professional resume or on LinkedIn.
So the one thing that most people get pretty surprised to find out about me is I actually had an opportunity to go to school on a ballet scholarship.
Nice.
wow.
Yes. Yep.
Well, the arts are certainly a very important aspect of all learning and education. How did that come about for you?
Well, I played sports in high school and I was short and little and I played quarterback. And so my coach got me into doing ballet so I could jump to throw the football. And I enjoyed it and did ballet all through high school and was actually with a traveling ballet company for a summer where I was the Prince in the Nutcracker and I was Franz in Coppelia. And I actually had an opportunity to go to college on a ballet scholarship, but growing up in a military family, that was like, not cool. So I wound up going to New Mexico Military Institute instead.
Well, may I just say that you have raised the level of arts arts appreciation for the podcast. So good to hear that.
I grew up in Pittsburgh and actually used to apparently I threw a lot of football with Lynn Swan, and and he was known for the ballet with his sports performance, so helped legitimize it, if you will, in that aspect. So it was really fun. So, but I remember throwing football with him as a child. So
wow, very cool. I love to tell everybody that I almost got drafted right out of high school into the NFL. There was only one thing that kept me from getting drafted, just complete lack of professional ability to do it at that level. But other than that, I would have, been right there.
Right there.
So David, we want to let our audience know some character traits or behaviors that you would describe yourself with, or other folks would describe you if you were to leave the room. Like, what would they say? David is this, or he's known for this, or what do you aspire to be known as?
Great question. If you ask my wife, she would probably say David is a pain in the you-know-what. But if you were to ask most people, they would probably say that David is accommodating and giving until he's not. Most people get kind of taken aback because they're like, okay, you're very accommodating, you're very giving, you're very team-oriented, until all of a sudden then you're like, no. And they cross that line. And it's like, you're not even going to discuss it? Okay, let's discuss it. Okay, we discussed it? No. And it's, once you cross that line, the line is crossed. And so that usually takes people aback the first time. I remember I was in a car, driving in the car, and I pastored a church for quite a few years along with my business world. Never got paid for pastoring. We always rolled the money back into ministry. But so I always had a job in the business world. But we were my wife and I were driving to the airport in Phoenix, and one of the ladies who attended our church asked if she could get a ride to the airport. So it's like, sure. So she's sitting in the back seat, and I get a call. And at the time, I was VP of Salinas, the Western Regional VP, which is the Fortune 500 company. And so on the call, going through, and all of a sudden, guys are arguing back and forth. And finally, I was like, stop. This is what you're going to do. This is when will you do it by. And if you're not done by that time, there will be consequences. Do you understand? And everybody on the phone was like, okay, got it, Dave. No problem. We'll do that. And the lady in the back had never seen Business Dave. And I could see her eyes get really big and her mouth go, oh. And I was like, so you never saw Business Dave before, huh? She's like, nope. I'm like, well, you just have.
That's great. So,
yep.
So tell us a little bit about some of the roles that you play. Now we have an idea of who you are from a descriptive standpoint. So what are some of the roles?
Yeah. So for most of my adult life, I've had both a dual role in ministry and in the professional world, as well as, being a full-time, father, husband. But I've pastored for going on 26 years now, and never took a dime for ministry, always rolled that back into, the community and doing ministry work. So I've always had to have a paid job. I call it my paid job. And so I've worked my way up. I was a nuke engineer in the Navy, got out. I was actually one of the original people who developed angioplasty balloon catheter technology. When I first got out of the service, I got a job out of for a company called Meditech out of Boston, actually Watertown, Mass. And they were developing angioplasty balloon catheter technology. And so I built the machines, me and my team built the machines, and we took it through the FDA approval process. And then once it got FDA approved, they sold the rights to the technology to Boston Scientific, and all of us lost our job. So, had to go looking for a job then. And so went back in at that time to the power industry and worked my way up to where I was managing power plants. And then about 30 years ago, I came to work on what I call the dark side, which is the consulting side. So I came to work for a company back then called Calgon. And I worked my way up in Calgon to where I was in the leadership position in Calgon. Then I left and went back into the power industry, where I was director of training at Vermont Yankee until Vermont Yankee shut down. And so then I went back here into the consulting side and worked my way up to where I was regional vice president for a Fortune 500 company. And I took a buyout from them in 2018 and had a chunk of change that I needed to do something with or pay a lot of taxes on it. And so I took that chunk of change and I invested it in buying a business. It's actually a franchise, Citywide Facility Solutions of Southern Arizona, the main franchisors in Kansas City. But with any business, when you start up, you're not making money right away. And so I still needed a job. So I reached out to some people who used to work for me before that were at a different company. And I saw that they needed a guy with power experience. And so I got a job doing what I did 25 years ago. So I could put food on my family's table and a roof over their head while I was growing the business at the same time. And at the same time, pastoring the church. And so my wife and I retired from pastoring about a year ago. And so I had a lot of extra time on my hands. So I wrote a book. So there you go.
Oh, wow. Well, you certainly have had your share of roles. And
yes, sir.
I know that you prepared for today's session with us. So what is the experience that you would like to share?
There are two experiences that I'd like to share. One is for new leaders, and then one can be for new leaders or even seasoned leaders who are starting out to try to find their own business. In the first moment, I think every new leader needs to understand is there's more than one way to do it. Most people think this is the way it should be done. And when you've been successful to the point where you're getting into the role of leadership, it's the old adage, you get promoted to your level of incompetency. Because you can be really good at doing something, let's say sales, you can be really good at sales, and then you get promoted into a sales leadership position, and that's a whole different ball game. and you think everybody has to do it your way. And that's not the case. And you usually stunt people when you're trying to dictate the way they accomplish their job.
Mhm.
And the way I explain it to people is my wife and I, we got married roughly 15 years ago now. And I had been pastoring a church for several years before my wife and I got married. And for the first year, my wife swore I wasn't really a Christian because I didn't do it the way she did it. She was like, "What do you mean you don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and read your Bible and spend time with the Lord and then journal and, spend time in prayer to hear what the Lord's calling you to do?" I'm like, "That's not the way God speaks to me." And we do that. And so it took about a year before she realized, okay, there's more than her way to do it. And in business, and especially in leadership for young leaders, they think that everybody needs to do it the way that they've done it. And so they try to set those guardrails, and they wind up, instead of empowering people, they wind up muting people.
And David, that is such a great way that you have explained a very general moment. But what we want to dive into is, now that you've set up a little general idea, so what is your experience? This has to be something from you, like what was the moment when you went, "Oh wow, that didn't go like I thought it was going to go"? What is that moment for you?
Yep. So when I was at first in leadership, I was managing a power plant. So I had gotten out of the Navy, and now I was back into power plants. And I worked my way up to where I got the plant manager's position. And the first time I tried to direct or dictate how people should do it, I wound up getting a lot of pushback and a lot of frustration to where it was not a cohesive aspect. And I had a gentleman who had been doing it for basically since he was out of high school. He had worked at this power plant, and he had worked his way, he'd been there for, 25, 30 years. He was, I was at the time 28 years old, and he was 50 years old. And he pulled me aside, and he was like, "Dave, I've been doing this. I know how to do this. I don't have to do it your way." And he goes, "So let me ask you, why are we doing it this way?" And I said, he goes, "We've never done it this way before." And I'm like, "Well, you've never done it this way before because I've never been your boss before." And he's like, "Dave, I don't need you to be my boss to tell me how to do things. I've run this plant for 50 years, 40 years, however many it was." He goes, "I need you to give me the tools that I need to run, to do my job. And I need you to take down the roadblocks which are preventing me from doing this job. You're trying to change the way I've done this successfully. If there's a reason why I need to change what I'm doing, then tell me that and educate me on why that reason is, and I'll be happy to do it that way. But if you're just trying to get me to change the way I do this because it's not the way you do it, then no." And so I had to step back and reevaluate and go, okay, what's the ultimate mission that we're trying to accomplish? We're trying to accomplish the successful and profitable running of the power plant. What are the key parameters which determine whether or not we're successfully and profitably running the power plant? Okay, how many megawatts are we producing? Are we selling the megawatts at the optimum price? Are we keeping maximum vacuum? And are we doing it safely? And so when I had to look at it that way, I was like, okay, I don't need to change just for the sake of change. I need to empower and provide resources and take away roadblocks. So then I asked the important question, which kind of changed the focus of everything. And so I called a meeting and I asked everybody, what is keeping you from performing your job to the best of your ability? Let me know what that is, and I'll do my best to take that roadblock away. And then I asked, once I take this roadblock away, what resource do you currently not have that would allow you to better perform your job and allow us to be safer and more profitable? And if I can do it to the best of my ability, I'll do that. And then I learned a valuable lesson, because when I asked that question, there were those that said, well, what exactly is our mission? What exactly is our job that we're trying to accomplish? And so then I realized, okay, the first thing that people need is clarity. And so being able to determine, okay, are you clear with what the job function is, with what is being asked of you? I learned that people don't fail on purpose. A lot of times they fail because they really don't know what's being asked of them. And so they're left to their own device. And sometimes they get it wrong. And then they get yelled at and they get a bad performance, but they never really knew what was expected of them. So then I was like, okay, the first thing we need to do is clarity. And then with that whole conversation, I found out when I made it clear to people what the job description was and what the expectations were, there were some who were like, I don't have the skill set to do that. So then it became incumbent upon me to assess, do they have the competency? Do they have the skill set? If they don't have the skill set, can I give them the skill set by either training or coaching or send them to a course or whatever it is that they need? And I realized at that point, some people just aren't capable of having the skill set that they need to really be successful. And I try to tell people, it's like, I can train every day there is, and I'm never going to run to a 100-yard dash in 10 seconds. I just don't have the skill set, and I'm not capable of getting that skill set. So I realized then there were people who were spending a lot of time being active, but not really accomplishing anything. And so activity is not success and activity is not accomplishment. And so I assessed, okay, once I've given you clarity, now we agree you've got clarity on what the mission is. Now we assess whether or not you have the skill set. And if you do, great. If you don't, we assess, can we get you there? And if not, then the most loving and beneficial thing for us to do is to find you a place where you can be successful. And that's not harsh. That's just real. And then the third thing I found in that conversation was the one thing I can't give them is desire. I can give them short-term desire, do it or you're fired, do it and I'll give you a bonus. But that short-term desire is short-limited and eventually fades away. So I needed to tap into and understand what their desire was. And like this one gentleman who had been there for, 20 years, 30 years, who pulled me aside, I asked him, how come you're not the plant manager? And he said, I don't want to be. He goes, I want to work 5 days a week. I want to go hunting and fishing on the weekends. I want to get off at 5 o'clock and go home to my wife and drink some beer. That's my idea of success. That's what I want. And I'm like, okie dokie. I knew what his desire was. And so as long as he was able to fulfill what was, his goal, that desire, he was a great worker. There were others that were like, no, I want to learn how to be a manager. I want to learn how to do this. So being able to assess all of those things and realize not everybody does it the way you do it, and that's okay.
And that's really great, David. I really appreciate how you really laid that out, the transition, because what started out as one uh-oh moment, it sort of bled into potentially another uh-oh or another uh-oh, and it really became a string, right, that you were able to really address. And so for our listeners, just to kind of recap that a little bit, the first thing that you recognized was that you were attempting to just come into the situation and have people do it the way you thought it was to be done.
Yeah.
And really maybe took on that particular role because you were in fact the person in charge, and looked at it from, oh, wow, I'm in charge, so I should be, making decisions about what we do. And then you come into contact with an individual who happens to coach you, who says a little bit about, hey, look, I know how to do this job. You don't need to tell me this job. But what I need are resources. And then, that clicked for you. Now we need to be focusing a little bit more on, on the resources. And so then asking questions and getting people involved, and then offering them clarity, and then giving them the tools that they need, and then the training that they need, and certainly trying to stimulate them for, for their desire or their motivation to accomplish it. So thank you so much for really, really giving us that really good bit of information. And so, Ben, what should we ask him next?
Was there any cost that you can say that associated? You go through this experience. What did it cost you to when you first approached this gentleman and said you should do it this way, and he came back to you? Like, where's the cost?
So the cost was in humility. I was 28 years old at the time. I was a nuke engineer, out of the Navy. I had been, one of the techs who developed angioplasty balloon catheter technology. I was king, I thought I was good stuff. And then realizing, you're really just a 28-year-old kid. So that was really it, being able and willing to say, okay, it's time for me to learn and not have to feel like I have to force my way in, and realizing that respect isn't necessarily given, it's earned. You can respect somebody for the position and the title, but to respect the person, that has to be earned. And I really didn't earn the respect. And so I learned there also, along with all that, what I now call the 4-month rule. Anytime I come into a new position, I do not do anything to make any changes unless it has to, for at least 4 months. And so I take time to learn and to assess and to see the way they're doing it, to talk to people, to learn from those people, gain their knowledge and wisdom before I start to process everything and say, okay, here's what I see. Here's what I've seen you guys do. Now let's sit down and have a conversation about it. So the cost was pride. The cost was in pride and humility.
So let's go down this additional route. So it sounds like you would have been the manager, and technically by hierarchy, this person had been there 40 years was under your position at this point, right? Is that okay?
Yep.
So what would it have cost you? Let's extrapolate. Had you forced your way in this scenario, well, what would have been the results of that?
I would have lost him. He could have went to any power plant in the region, and and I would have lost him. And when I lost him, I would have lost everybody else, because he was very respected.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good to pack into that, to really realize that not only is it an immediate cost, but it also is a cost that would be, cascading down much further into the future.
Yep.
Of where it is. So what were your plans like? So now that you learned that, because you definitely are an individual who, listen, you've done ballet, you've done football, you've done all these things. So how are you preparing yourself to make sure that you don't go down? Well, I guess the one way he did tell us was the 4-month rule, right?
4-month rule.
So I don't want to discount the fact that I wasn't listening. So I did get that. but maybe there's some other things that you also can share with us that you now put in place to ensure that you still get to maintain your humility. You get to be, you're still the leader, still providing information. What are those things that you put in place?
Yeah. And so what I put in place now is whenever let's say you're going through an interview process and you're looking to hire somebody, right? So I sit down with the person when I'm getting ready to hire them or interview them, and I say, listen, here's the reality. You're here because I liked what I saw on your resume. We had a phone conversation. I liked what, I heard on the phone conversation. I had you talk to a couple of other people who worked for me. They all agreed that you're worth bringing in. So now here's the reality. And then I lay it out. This is what the expectation of the job is. This is what it requires. Are you clear on that? Yes or no? Okay, you're clear on what the job requires. Now, here's what the job pays. Are you clear with what the job pays? And is that enough for you? Because this is what the job requires. This is what it pays. Because what I don't want is you to say, yeah, and then 6 months down the road going, well, I don't get paid enough. We're going to have an agreement up front that you're clear on what it is that it takes to, what the job required is, and you're clear on what the pay is. If you are, great, let's continue on with this interview. If you're not, great too, not a problem. We don't have to continue on. But if you are, let's continue on. And then from there, I try to assess. I don't necessarily assess their skill set in the interview. I might ask them some questions about that, but from the conversations before and from their resume, I get a pretty good feel of, do they have the ability? Because I would much rather have somebody that has a work ethic and desire than somebody who has a great skill set. Because you look at a team, let's just take a basketball team, and you got one guy who is like a superstar, but he's not a team player and he doesn't engage everybody else. That team's not going to be successful. But if you give me 5 guys who will play as a team that have, skill sets that I can elevate, then they're going to be successful. So in the interview process, what I look for is, are you a team player? Do you fit the culture? Are you willing to be, and I have 2 awards that I give out that are near and dear to my heart. One of them is called the Stretch Armstrong Award, and I use the Stretch Armstrong doll as the trophy along with some monetary award. But that's the person who stretches themselves the most and goes beyond what they thought their capability was. And so I give that once a quarter. And then the other one, which is the most important to me, is the Gumby Award. And that's for the person who is the most flexible, who will bend over backwards to help the team, who will do whatever it takes to get the job done. And so that one to me is the epitome award, and it's the Gumby Award, just who is the most flexible. And so that's what I assess in the interview, because I'm a firm believer that culture will change the game. If you have the right culture, where people feel empowered and people feel listened to and heard, then they'll do whatever they can to the maximum of their ability to achieve what they need to.
Well, I've never won a Gumby Award or a Stretch Award, but I think a Pokey Award. I won a Pokey.
There you go.
and for all of you Gen Zs who are listening, you may have to Google that at POKY.
Yes.
Oh my God. So David, thank you so much for that, sharing that information with us. How will people be able to get in touch with you?
If people want to get in touch with me, they can reach me at rippleoffaith.com. So that's the book I wrote was Ripple of Faith. And so that is where they can reach me, at rippleoffaith.com.
Okay, super duper. And we know that you also put a lot of effort into this. What was a question that you thought we would ask you during the interview that we didn't?
That's a great question, because my wife was like, are you going to ask him that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll see how it goes. Because she was like, it's the uh-oh. And I'm like, but I wonder if it's the uh-oh that became an aha. So is it the uh-oh aha, or is it the oh crap aha?
I think either way, it turns itself around, right?
Yes.
It only remains the uh-oh crap when you don't learn from it.
True enough.
So did you have a question, though, that you thought we would ask you?
No, that was the question. Are they going to ask me, what was the oh crap, or what did I learn from it? What was the aha moment? It's like, because those are 2 different things.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, you'll be able to report back to your wife then, for sure.
Yes, I will.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for being with us. We really do appreciate it so much. We're going to end our podcast like we do all of our Cohesion Culture programs with this simple mantra. You don't have to know everything.
Just need to be teachable.